I've listened to probably 100 of his lectures. I listen to him on iTunes on the Psychedelic Salon.
There you go.
And sometimes I have to remind myself that he's saying this stuff in 1992 and 91 and 93, pre-internet and so many things that have changed.
All those things, right,
and
right.
Yet so much of it is so relevant and so true.
It's a phenomenon for sure. And I think, I think Terence would be amused. I think he would be happy about that, because at a certain stage in what he was talking about how the internet was going to transform everything, and it is, as we've seen, it has. So yeah, I'm happy that his ideas are so alive still, and stimulating thought and all that. So, and in the 15 years since he's died, we've seen this whole psychedelic thing just explode, and the awareness of ayahuasca, the awareness that these stigmatized, condemned, prohibited, marginalized substances are suddenly almost respectable again, as the research accumulates and we begin to see, well, actually these do have great value in medicine and so on, potentially. So we're seeing that happen. Terence has got to have a lot of credit for that.
Both of you.
Well, both of us, yes. Okay, I'll take some credit.
Are you surprised when you look at it from 2000 to 2015, where we are today, when it comes to the awareness of plant medicines? Are you surprised how quickly that happened?
I am very surprised how quickly that happened. To Terence's credit, the neat thing, the good thing about Terence is that back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s, when it was not cool to talk about this stuff in public, he was talking about it.
Right.
He never stopped talking about it. And so it kept it on the table for conversation. So that then, and I was in it too, I was working in it, but I didn't want a lot of attention. I just wanted to do my science, and I was in the background of all this. And, but during the 90s, we started this Hefter Research Institute, which is, now thriving. I mean, at the time, people said, you're nuts. Even though we had very qualified people starting it, but people said, nobody's going to support this, you're crazy. Well, now Hefter's alive and well and thriving, and most of the leading scientists in research are either on the board or being supported by us or closely affiliated with us. I don't want to take away from MAPS. MAPS doing good work too, but we're sort of the nerdy ones in the background. We're smaller, we're less well funded, but we are now getting significant funding. And because as you ramp up these clinical trials, you need more and more funding. We just got a pledge for $750,000, from a donor that I can't mention. But that's encouraging. And just the way it's fallen out, not really deliberately, but the way it's sort of gone is that MAPS has kind of staked out MDMA for they've hooked their wagon to MDMA, and
right.
they're focusing very much on treating PTSD using that compound, which is great.
MDMA through kind of a nice way in through firefighters and soldiers, which is a great way to sell it to the public.
And there's great need for this, so that's wonderful. And they want to make a prescription drug out of MDMA, and I do believe they'll probably succeed. And just we've sort of hung our hopes on psilocybin because that's the other one you could study in a clinical situation. It's very compatible with human metabolism. It's not toxic. You can use it in hospice situations, for example, and give it to people who are fairly ill, and it just is the perfect clinical psychedelic. And of course, it's not the same as MDMA, But so we're sort of working on psilocybin, and not that we're limited to that, but that's just the way it's worked out. And then ayahuasca sort of remains in the wings in some ways, because being a plant, it's more difficult to study under an FDA-approved protocol.
Okay.
And getting approval for psychedelic research is bad enough, but then one of them happens to be a plant. You've
And the
got
other a
another
fungus, so it makes it more.
got another.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the psilocybin is synthetic. We work with the synthetic.
synthetic
It's
version,
a natural product, but it's synthetic. But ayahuasca is harder to. If you're going to study ayahuasca, you pretty much have to study the botanical preparation, because there are properties it has that any synthetic analog is not going to have, because it's 2 compounds at least and a whole bunch of other things. So ayahuasca is more difficult, but and at Hefter, I become a big sort of advocate of, yes, we need to be looking into ayahuasca, and why do we have to play this silly FDA game? Let's just go to Peru and do this work. You can do good science in Peru, and ayahuasca is accepted. It's a national patrimony there. It's literally been declared to be a national patrimony. So let's do some of that work down there.
Right. And I want to talk about Peru, because you went down there for the first time in 1970. With Terence, is that right?
Well, we went to Colombia.
To Colombia, of course,
1971, right.
Okay. But before we get to that, I just wanted to say, you talk about like the 80s and 90s, how it was really rare for people to talk openly about these psychedelic experiences. And some of those recorded conversations where Terence is, people aren't using their real names. They don't want to be recorded, because for them it's dangerous, or they feel the danger to talk about that. And I guess this was kind of the Reagan say no to drugs time.
Right.
Our experiences on London Real were in 2012. We had a before and after ayahuasca episode, and I was hesitant because I thought I could never go back to banking. Now, this is 25 years later, and I did a before and after DMT episode. And I'll be honest, Dennis, I was worried about my daughter and the parents and the principals and what they would think, and if a social worker would come. And we went ahead and did it anyways, and it was okay in the end, both of those times. But I can't imagine what it was like to talk about that stuff in the 80s and the 90s. To watch the rest of this fascinating interview, click on the link below and go to londonrealacademy.com. There you can sign in with your social media, log in and watch the rest of the episode for free, along with all of our episodes on London Real, my webinars, and all of our premium content, all located over at londonrealacademy.com. So click on the link below, you'll be directed there, and you can watch the rest of this fascinating interview, and I'll see you there.